So basically, we've seen how to design any application that has some kind of text field, a label, a button. And then now so far what we've been using is that like one flow layout that is going to display things just one next to each other, right? But what if I'd like to do something like this, for example? Something that has like different parts, when I have some kind of buttons over here, and then this is going to be not easy to do with the flow layout, because a flow is just going to put one next to each other. I would like to put them in different places. Now, in order for me to do that, I need other type of layouts, and this is the discussion that we're going to be starting with. Now, for example, also this one here. Now, these are kind of different kind of layouts, but I found this website. I think I put the link somewhere down here, which is kind of interesting. This one, the link is here, that explains these kind of layouts with examples. And the flow layout is the one where you have the one after the other. When the row is filled, it just goes back to the next row and then keeps adding the different components that you have. Now, there's another one called the grid layout. In the grid layout, it allows you to do something like this, where you put things into some kind of a grid. Now, the grid layout works like this. You just mention the row and the columns. How many rows do we have? How many columns do you would like to have? Like in this example, for example, you see it has like 6 buttons. And then notice that it's button, not J button, because remember this is called AWT. AWT is like the old version of swing. Before it was AWT, that was the graphical user interface, and then they came up with the new set of classes that is the swing. So, but the concept is the same. So that's why you see here button, this is an AWT button, but for swing they added this J button, J label, etc. So you're going to see, for example, if you have a lot of buttons, it's going to be here. If we see some labels, you're just going to see label. But the same thing applies. Now, see here for the set layout, I can do just this new grid layout instead of new flow layout that we used to do. In the new flow layout, we just have now the controls one after the other. Now, in the grid layout, however, you have two type of constructors. One that mentions the row and the columns only, and one that mentions the rows and columns, and then the gap between them, like the horizontal gap and the vertical gap. See, by default, the row is 1, column 0, but the gap is 0, 0. That means this is going to be stuck together. But you know what? Let's try that. We're just going to see how this works. So I'm going to create a new class that I'm going to call grid frame. Now, in this grid frame, it will extend the JFrame. Now, I've seen some of you sometimes getting stuck during the assignment with, I don't remember the spelling, how to get those, or sometimes you just type and then you forget where you get this import from. My advice to you, always, never complete the whole typing all the time. Just type the first once and then control space. The control space will give you options, so you don't have to type things. And also, if there's a class that was not imported, it will be imported. So that's why if you type it yourself, you might forget where to get that. But the JFrame is going to be, if you use the control space, it will just finish things for you. However, even if you don't use the control space, and especially for the import thing, if you don't remember where, well, try to use the help of NetBeans, because it tells you, okay, you would like to import this from here. But sometimes you just import without even thinking. You have different options. You just select the first one that happens to be in the list. That's not always the one that you want. Just read the options and select the one that you really need. So, but if you'd like to not have this kind of problem, just use control space, and then you see it gives you some kind of, okay, JFrame, it's coming from this package. You double click and that's it. Now let's just create a constructor that is going just to initialize those. And here I'm going to set the layout to be a new grid layout. So I'm going to use again control space, and I'd like to have these grid layouts. Now you see I get some help here that tells me the grid layout class is a layout manager that lays out containers components in a rectangular grid. The container is divided into equal sized rectangles, and one component is placed in each rectangle. So in each rectangle I can put one specific component. I cannot put 2 or 3, and I can just put only one. But there's a way. What if I'd like to put more than one? There is a way. We'll see that later, but that's the idea. So it gives you an example. For example, the following is an applet that lays out 6 buttons into 3 rows and 2 columns. And it shows you this kind of new set grid layout 3-2. So it gives you some kind of example. It's kind of interesting to have a look at this because it helps you have an idea. Now you can see also you see here, I'm just trying to get the help. What does this gives me? Maybe here. Open source in editor. This one, this is the tooltip I was looking for. Okay, gone. I was doing control space, yeah. So by clicking this one, it shows the documentation in external web browser. So what it happens is that it opens a page with that documentation in a browser, and that web page gives you the information that you have. So I'm showing you this because we don't have time to see individually everything that is available, because there's so many classes that are available, there's so many options. And then what I'd like you to be able to is to check the web for some kind of examples of kinds of answers, so you can understand more how to use these, and you can see it explains to you what things are and how. For example, this is the same thing that we were looking at, but this time on a web page, which is more maybe appropriate. And you can see that anyway there's some kind of explanation of how this looks like. It even tells you that different type of whatever methods are available, but anyways, this is coming from which class? The grid layout. So in the grid layout, as you can see, I have different options, and I'm going to select. If I'm just selecting this one, and the default gap is going to be 0. I'm going to do that, and let's say I would like to have like 2 by 2, because I don't want to. Well, let's not be lazy. Let's put 3 by 2. Or 2 by 3 to have a different example. Now 2 by 3 means what? The first one is the rows. So I have 2 rows, and the second one is going to be the columns, so 3 columns. Now by setting this, I'm just going to create these J buttons, or it could be label. It doesn't have to be a button. I'm going to show you something different. I'm going to put like 3 buttons. How many rows do we have? We have 2 rows and then 3 columns, right? I'm going to put 1 label and then 2 buttons. So I need 4 buttons. Button 1, and copy them both just to show you something different. 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm going to have private J label. Control space again. Label 1, and same thing. Label 2. Somebody give me advice about copying and pasting. But I forgot what the advice was. I thought if I'd like to copy a whole line and then paste it down, some of you maybe told me something. It was like a shortcut. Shift. To move. Shift. Okay, Shift and then Alt, and then move them. Okay, that was for moving. Okay. All right, Shift Alt. Okay. All right, and no, that's not what I wanted. So, anyways, okay. I thought it was the copying down. So now I'm doing this. Now, as soon as you have those, I'm going to initialize them. Button 1 equal new J button. I'm just going to just put one I'm going to call 1, 2, 3, whatever. 2, 3, 4. And then this is 2, 3, 4. And with the labels, equal new J label. And then text 1. And same thing for text 2. Now I should not forget to set the size to be, I don't know, 300 by 300, and then also set the title, or maybe just call the super with grid testing, and then set default close operation. You remember I was using JFrame and then dot exit, close on exit, exit on close. Now you see this is coming from JFrame, right? But I'm inheriting from JFrame. That's what I'm trying to explain. So because I'm inheriting from JFrame and this is available, this is public. It's static but it's public. So that means this is something that I'm going to inherit. So by just doing here, you see I'm inheriting this exit on close. It's here because it's coming from JFrame. But it's, anyways, it's something you can also do. JFrame is something extra that you can use. But that's what I need. And yeah, that's it. I mean, I can also let it set location, but this is something optional. Let's see. What was the number that we're using? Something like this. So now if I just need to run, I'm not going to say anything, but I'm just going to add these. Now the order of these things that I'm adding is going to be here from the left to the right, and then once I finish all the cells I go back and keep going. So that's what I'm going to do now. So the first one is going to be label, and then the button 1 and button 2. Then copy and paste. Then it's going to be label 2 and then 3 and 4. And maybe the last one is set visible, so I can just come back here. Let me close this and just use create an object from this advanced what did I call it? Grid. New grid frame, and if I run now I should be able to see something. And that's it. Now notice now you see all these buttons are stuck together because by default the gap is 0. Now if I would like to have a better gap, I can just here in this I can put some more by putting, for example, 10 and 10. Now what's going to happen is that I'm putting some kind of 10 spaces between horizontally and vertically. If I'd like to put more, well, maybe 20. This is the first one is which one? I don't remember, but I think it's horizontal. So the horizontal, the ones on the same line are going to be separated with a greater distance. So let me run again. So you see it's bigger distance. So that's how I can control. And if I size this, it's going to size based on these different things. So what happens is it splits the whole frame into 3 columns, 2 rows and 3 columns. And that's the grid layout. So it depends on what I'd like to do. I can just decide to have different type of layout. So the grid layout, this is how it works. There's another one which is the border layout. The border layout works differently because it just put things in different, like north, south, west, east and center. And it's just the same idea. You can also put some kind of gap between them. With the border layout you can just put some kind of what's the gap that you would like to have, the horizontal, vertical, etc. But then if you put something, for example, when you add when you add something, now if it's a grid layout, I add it like this. Just by adding, it will just know where to put it. But when it's like a border layout, now I'm just going to put this into comment, and I'm going to set the layout to be new border layout. Now the border layout, and I'm going to put the gap to be 10-10 because I'd like just to see some distance between them. Now the border layout, when I add them, I need to specify where, and I have 3 options. I mean 6 options. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, 5 options: north, south, east, west, and then the center. So for example, I'm just going to put now this label 1 to be in the north. So how can I put that? You see, just when you add the button or whatever the component, and then you specify where you want to add it. So here, if I do this border layout dot, I'm going to see this north, south, west, etc. So let's add this north, for example, and this one, let's do the same, just with copy and paste, so I can. The button one, this one is going to be, let's say, east, and the other one west. Yes, your question? If you put 2 and north, it will be one on top of the other. I mean, it will be the last one that you put is going to be on the north. So the one that was before is going to be just maybe hidden. But generally, you put just one in a place. But if you'd like to put more, you have to use something else. You have to use a component that can have, it's like a container. There are some components that can contain more components. But the buttons, the labels are just, they are individual components that they are not containers that can have other components inside of them. But we'll see some, and one particularly the panel, and which allows us to put more into one place. So then I can do, for example, put the panel into a north, and then inside that panel I can put more different things. And even a panel, I can specify what kind of layout is that panel going to be. So I can just specify different kind of layouts. So for example, what I mean is that you can put here something that is going to be grid layout when you'd like to have like 2 rows and 3 columns, just here, and you can put different things. And here you would like to have a flow layout, and here you would like to have also a border layout. You would like to have north, south, whatever. So you can do a lot of different things. So that's the idea. Let's just stop here, and then let's north, east, west, and let's add I don't know. Let's add only. Let's add the buttons. Button 1, button 2, and button 3, and then the other one, the button 4. What did I do? Button 4 is going to be south, and then I'm just going to use one label. The label 1 is going to be for the layout dot center. Now let me run this so I can see how it looks like. I mean, this is not probably not a good name, not grid layout. Grid. I'm just going to rename this to be layout. Layout frame. So it's going to be different layouts. So let me run this. Now you can see that this is north. Let's go back here so I can see what we did. The button 1, we put it north. The button 2, we put it east, north, south, east, west. The button 3 is going to be west. 4 is going to be south. And then the label 1 is going to be in the center. Or what we could do, we could take this button 1 and put it here, and put here label 1. So maybe it will be more visible. The button in the center is going to take the whole thing. So that's the idea behind this border layout. So there are different layouts. There's a bunch of them, and there are things we're going to be having a look at. But anyways, for example, to do something like this, there are two types of layouts there. You see this one? This seems to be a border layout here that splits this into two. So in the north I have this text field, and in the south I have a grid layout because I have 4 by 3.
Can you explain the difference between set layout and the grid layout?
The what?
Grid.
The grid?
Grid.
Grid puts like a cell. And which one?
Set.
Set?
Layout.
Then I'm
No,
not.
layout.
No, the question was, what's the difference between set layout
Mhm.
and grid layout? Set layout, you're talking about this method here,
Yes.
right? And the grid layout. Well, set layout is what allows you to choose which kind of layout you can use. We've seen that we used flow layout, grid layout, and now border layout. There are others, but I'm not going to be got into those. These are like the main three that we're going to be playing with. But the set layout is going to decide which one you're going to use. Now, grid layout is one of the layouts that we can choose. The flow layout is a type of layout that adds the things one after the other on a line. The grid layout allows you to put them in some kind of a table with cells. You can mention what's the size. And then the border layout tells you like some kind of region. You can put them north, south, east, west, or something like that. So these are the type of layouts. Yes?
So all of this is inside of a panel without
Now these ones are inside the frame because we set the layout of this frame. But now what we would like to do is to not create only just the frame, but we'd like to put something, let's say like this here. Now something like this here, if we'd like to design something like this, or maybe something like what was here in before, like here, we need to use a component. Like for example, like this one here, to design this, I'm going to put in the north this here, and then in the center I'm going to put another panel here. So let me draw this so I can just explain how this is going to be. Now this is my frame. Now the frame, when I use this, by using this, is going to be the north. Now I'd like to also tell you that if I'd like to go back to here. This is my border layout. What if I add only two controls? The one on the north and then something in the center. What is going to happen if I just put something in the center? You see, the east and west are not going to be reserved. They're going to be taken also. So that's basically what I'd like to do. What I'm going to do is that in the north I'm going to put something, and in the center I'm going to put something else. What am I going to put? I'm going to put panels. A panel is like an empty container, not visible unless I decide to change its color, for example. And I'm going to put this one here. This is going to be a panel. Inside this panel I'm going to put a text field like this. Or you know what? I can remove the panel and just put the text field immediately inside this north. That's another thing that I can do. So I could do, for example, just here, when I put that, I'm going to put a text field inside here. Yes.
the text field is inside the frame. And the panel is inside.
Inside the frame, exactly. And then in the north part of the frame. And then in the south part of the frame, I'm going to put some kind of a hidden, not visible panel. Now this panel, I can decide what kind of flow is going to be in. And that kind of flow that I would like to use to be designing something like this is going to be a grid, where I'm going to put these into 4 by 3. And inside this, each one of them, I'm going to put different buttons in different ones. And that's how I can design something like this. Shall we try? So let's call this, I don't know, what do we call this? It looks like a dialer, something that you can dial some phone number in it. Let's just create a new. Let me close this. So I'm going to create a new class. Then I'm going to call it dialer frame. Now this dialer frame here is going to obviously extend JFrame. Okay, and I'm going to do this to add. If I'd like to show it exactly the same way, I'm going to display this as just JPanel. Of course, this should be a text, and then I'm just going to copy a lot of these things, so I don't have to put the set size, set close, etc. And yes, but I'm not going to use the border layout. Yeah, I'm going to use the border layout actually. Yeah. So I'm using the border layout because this is what I'd like to use here. In the whole frame, it's a border layout. In the top here, I'm going to put a text field. So private J text field. TF. That's it. And then I'm going to initialize that. Text field, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to leave it empty. Why empty? Because when you put it in North, it would just take the whole space of that northern part of the frame. So when I'm going to add it, I'm going to add it to that. But the other thing that I will need is that I need a JPanel. Now JPanel is a container, some place that I can put things in it. And I'm going to call it panel. Or what I generally do, I forgot to use the control space, so I get the import, and panel, I'm going to call it panel center, because this is what I'm going to put it. Now check this, it might get a little bit in the panel, and I just need to put something, this new panel, JPanel. Now I'm going to initialize it, but I can also initialize and mention what is the layout manager that I would like to use in it. So in here, I would like to use a new grid layout. And the grid layout is going to be, okay, I'm going to also put the spacing. So what's the size? 4 by 3, and then I'll put 10, 10, so I can have some spaces. Now this is the panel, and there's no panel, this panel center. Now in this panel center, I just prepared it and mentioned that this is going to be where I'm going to put 4 by 3 components. Now where am I going to put this panel? So let me first show you something. This is what I'm initializing inside the frame. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add this text field into the border layout north, and then I'm going to do the same, but this time with the center for this panel center. I just would like to show you how this will look like. So in the advanced, now I'm going just to call the dialer frame. Let me run. I did not put the visible. Let me show you something also. You see, I can also do this dot set visible. I don't need to create an object to do that. I can just put this in one, because this is going to create an object of a dialer, and from that object I would like to set the visible of that object. So that's what I can do something like this. So that's another way to do things. Notice this is my text field, and this is the panel. The panel is empty because it doesn't show you anything. But what I'd like to show you that this is the panel, I can show this to you by changing its color. How can I change the panel's color? Well, this panel, set background color. Now in set background color, it takes the type called color. But check this out. Color is a class that has some kind of variables that are static, and they have some kind of name that are clearly saying what kind of color it is. And I'd like to use, let's say, I'm going to make it red. Now if I run this thing now, this, you see, this shows you this is the panel that is in the center, this is the northern part, and the panel is now red. I just wanted to show you that this is how I can first of all change the color, but also how to show you that this is the panel. The panel is there, but it's not showing because by default it has the same color as the frame, so you don't distinguish between it and the frame. Now what I'd like to do is to add these different buttons that I have. So I have how many buttons? 4 by 3, that means I have 12 buttons, and that's what I'm going to do. So private J button, button 1, and copy and paste. First of all, it's button 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, 5, 6. You can use an array, yes. I can use an array of buttons, which is kind of more convenient. And then there's this, what is it, star. And then the other one is, what do you call this? Hash key, hashtag. Sharp. I don't know. Now the star is this, but this one, let's call it the hashtag, hash. All right, now I need to initialize each one of those, so all the best. Button 0 equal new J button, and then I'm going to put 0 in it. Inside would be better, and then do a lot of copy and paste, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you see now it's maybe a nice idea to have some kind of an array, because I could just do this in an array, but I don't want to do too many things at once. I'm just going to do step by step. Later on I might add an array so you can see how to do that in an array. Okay, then the last two buttons are going to be now this what is it called, star? Yes. What do you mean initialize the grid layout?
Border layout, you write set layout and border layout.
In the border layout and set layout, where is set layout?
Yes,
Yeah. Now this set layout is for what?
initialize the border layout. But why did not initialize
The border layout of what?
the set?
Of the frame. So set layout is the border layout of the frame. But I'm using another set layout here, because actually, let me show you something. This one also, the panel center, has also set layout. Now this is the layout of this panel, and this is the layout of this frame. So the frame has a border layout, and the panel has a grid layout. Now in this panel, I would like to add different components. And in this panel, this is where I'm going to add the buttons one by one. So I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, etc., etc., until the last one. This is where I'm going to add the 0. So button 1, this is what I'm going to add to the center, to panel center. And I'm going to put 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then I have the star. And then I have the button 0. And the last one is the hash. Now, what am I adding those? I'm adding them inside the panel. So, but what am I adding these? These are adding them inside the frame. So, what is happening here? I'm prepared the panel. I initialize it. I set the different layouts, the specific layout that goes in it, and then I put the content of it. What's inside of it is whatever I initialized here. And then all these are going inside the panel. And this panel is inserted in the center in the border layout. Now by running this thing, I'm going to have something like this. Yes?
If you put it without the panel center.
Without?
Panel center. Just add
Without this panel center.
without this.
Okay, but notice that the buttons are added where? Into the panel center. So if you don't add them, you're going to add them to where? So you have to mention, is it the north, south, east, or west? But you don't have a lot of space in there. Where are you going to put them? No, we're just going to add them, but like you add one on top of the other. So the last one that you add is going to be the last one that you're going to be seeing. I'm sorry? Well, you can try it though. But if you would like to see it, I need to do a lot of changes. I need to remove the panel. And then here, where you'd like to put, what you'd like to do? This one, put it in the center. And then if you put the star now into the center, so what is going to happen? The star only shows. Where is the hash key? Because it was hidden by the star. Now if I do this, that will be the one that I'm going to see. So if I add a lot of them, the last one that was added is the one that is going to be visible. That's how it works. Now it shows that they are not like this because I have put some spaces. But if I'd like to maybe tighten the space, it will be like maybe close to this. But if I put them back to 0, so if I put just the size of the rows and columns and I run, it is going to be with the 0 spacing between them. Yes. You can change the background of each button. Yes, of course. For example, the button 0, you would like to change the background, no problem. Just do the same thing. Set background color, and then you mention what kind of color you would like to have. Green. And you can also button 3, set background color to red, and so on. You can just mention whatever color you would like it to be. No, if you click, there's no action that was given, so we did not implement any action listener, so nothing is going to happen. But this might happen to do something if you want to. Now I'd like to show you something that is also nice to have, which is, I would like to just remember the name, but it's some kind of a menu. You know, we'd like to have something like this, some kind of menus like these, where I would like to be able to click on something and it will do some action. Well, can I add some menu? Well, yes, I can. But notice that the menu needs first some kind of a bar, when the menu bar is going to be. And then inside that menu bar, I need another, like a menu. And then inside that menu, I need a menu item. So there are different things. Just to be able to have a menu, I need to use 3 classes. Let's try to find those. And then now I'll let you practice those. So how to do that? Well, first of all, I need to declare private. I think it's called menu bar. Menu bar. These are the three things that I need. The bar is the one that is going to be where my menu is going to be, and then the menu is the big menu, and the menu item is the item that is going to be inside here. So these are menu items. This is the menu, like the file is the menu, and the menu bar is the one that can have many of these menus. So now I'm just going to have a menu bar. It's going to call menu bar, and also private menu. I'm just going to do something like the menu. I'm going to call it just the menu. What's the call it menu. Let's say file. I'm going to have something like file here, and then I don't know, help. Okay, now it's going to complain. I need to import the menu, and then I'm going to have two menus. Let's say I'm going to be having file and edit, just to show you these. Okay, and then inside of each one of them, I need to have as many items that I like, as many variables that I would like to have items. So for me, I'm just going to have 2 in here and then 2 in here, or maybe. So I'm just going to put this new project, new file. So I'm just going to add for this menu file. I'm just going to again add menu item. Why doesn't it help me? Okay. So I'm going to, how can I do it? Menu item mi file, and then I'm going to also do, there was another one, no, project and then file. Yeah, the one is going to be the menu item project, new project, and menu item file. And here I'm just going to add 2 things, the undo and redo. So I'm just going to have 2 items again, undo and redo. This is just to show you that I can put some kind of items, but basically for every element that I would like to have, I need to have a variable for that. So now let me just initialize those. So first of all, I need to initialize the items. What kind of items? Let's start with the menu items. New menu item. Now I can also specify the text immediately, so I'm just going to put this one. There's no, new project. Okay, this is me project, and I'm just going to mention the different new file, and then this me undo, and this redo. I'm just going to put it here. So I'm initializing the items, but each item is going to go in different places. So each item is going to go in different menus. So I need to put the menus that I'm going to. So this menu file have. So this menu file, I need to initialize it. New menu, and then I'm going to call it file, and inside this menu I will add these ones, but later on. Let's put them later on. Now the other menu, this edit, is going to be new menu with the edit, and above these I will have this menu bar, new menu bar. Notice that there's no different constructors for that. It's just I need a bar. Now inside that bar, what I'm going to put, I am going to, in the menu bar, I'm going to add the menu file. This is the first one that's going to show up, and on the, so the first one here is going to be the file, and then the other one is going to be the edit. And then inside this menu file, I'm going to add this menu item, new file, or maybe the new project first. So the order will specify which one is going to be first here. Is it new file or new project I would like to have? I'm going to have new project first. So I'm just going to call this me project. So I'm adding the project, then below it is going to be the file for inside the file. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the undo menu item. No, sorry. Now in here, I need to, in the menu edit, I'm going to add the undo and the redo. So all these are going to be now organized as I mentioned. So in the menu bar, I added the menu file, this one, and the menu edit. In the menu file, what it has, inside of the menu file, it has this new project. So this is this one, the menu item project, and the menu item new file. And inside this menu edit, this one, I put the undo and redo. Now, of course, I can put also some action. I can, you know what, I'm going, for example, if I click on new file, I'd like something to happen. Well, I can just, in this me file, so this menu item, I can add action listener. And then if I add an action listener, new action listener, I can just put the code that I would like to put when this is going to be pressed on. So if I click on this one, what should happen? I'm just going to mention it here. So what should happen, for example, if I click on new file, system.exit. Remember this system.exit? What does it do? Stop the program. And maybe in the new project, if I add something like this, I'm just going to, if I click on new project, notice I have this layout frame that I have. I'm just going to create a new layout frame. So from one, I can open another frame. From one frame, I'm opening another frame. And this layout frame, layout frame is this one that just shows this kind of buttons, west, east, west, whatever. Now let me run these to see a lot of different things. I have a null pointer. Okay, which null pointer? Oh, I forgot. This should be like this. Let me run. Now you can see that it's not showing. Where is the menu? I'm not seeing my menu. I was supposed to have a menu here. What I did is that the menu bar is ready. I added inside the menu bar everything, but the menu bar was not added to the frame. So in all the things that I added, the menu bar is not there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the menu bar that I just initialized. Now the menu bar is going to be added to the frame, so when I run, see, not there. I'm sorry? Well, no, normally the menu bar goes always on the top. So there's something about the menu and maybe the border layout. Yes. Now this is here. This is not inside the panel. So I'm not putting it inside of the panel. So the menu bar is normally here. But maybe I should mention what it is, but it doesn't, it's not supposed to be like that. Let's try that. Let's try to put in the border layout south. What is going to happen? It doesn't make a lot of sense, but a menu should be on the top, but let's say, just to see if it works. Yeah, it does. So my problem is that because of this border layout, I need to actually mention the place where it should be. If it was another layout, it will always be on the top. But so for example, what I'm going to do, I'm going to swap these. So the menu normally should always be on the top. So I'm going to put it here so you can see, okay, this is my menu and then this is the text field, whatever. Or if I'd like to have them both now, both of them, I want them to be in the north, I need to create another panel. In that panel, I'm going to call it north. So in the panel north, I just need to initialize. Where is the panel initialized? Here. I'm going to initialize a panel north. Now in that panel north, what kind of layout should it be? I can use a border layout as well. Then I put something on the north and something on the south, but it will be kind of confusing. But I'm going to use the grid layout, where I'm going to be having one row. No, actually 2 rows, 1 column. So I'm just going to split this part in 2. So basically this part I'm going to split it in 2. So in the northern part I'm going to add, so that's why the menu is going to be added. So in this northern part, the panel north, I'm going to add the menu bar as to be the first thing that I'm going to add, and then the next thing I'm going to add into the panel north is the text field. Now the text field is not going to be added here, but what I'm going to be adding to the north here is the other panel. So what I'm doing here is that I have 2 panels. One in the north, but I'm going to split into 2. The one in the north is this one. It will have a grid layout of 2 rows, 1 column. 2 rows, so 1 row, second row, and then only 1 column. So basically I'm just splitting this into 2 vertically. What I'm doing is just splitting this into 2. This first part will be for the menu bar, the second part will be for the text field. That's what I'm doing. I'm splitting this into 2. The first part is going to be the menu bar, the second one for the text field. This is about the panel north. And this panel north is going to be on the north of the frame. Then on the south of the on the center of the frame, I'm putting a grid layout of 4 by 3. So this is the center is going to be a 4 by 3, and this is where I'm putting the buttons and everything. And I hope it will work. I don't know if it's going to work. Yes, it does. So now I have this file and edit. Both of these have these 2 things. Now remember, if I click on this new project, what should happen? This new project is going to open a new layout frame. So if I click here, it opens this new one. If I close this, it closes everything. So maybe in this one it's not good to have this set close operation. So if I close this one, if I open new, if I close this one, I just want it to hide and keep the program running. And now if I click on new file, remember this new file is like exit for me, it's just going to stop. And I can put some actions like I put on any button, as you can see. The same way here. Now I'm using anonymous classes, but you can use any type of options that you have. If you'd like to use here, like implements action listener, you can do it as well. Now that's the introduction to this kind of layouts. So just to practice those, have a look at this one. Now I'd like you to do something like this. Now this here is some kind of a panel, actually 3 panels. So this is some kind of a frame that has any kind of layout. What kind of layout it can be here? Probably border layout, because this should be like the center, this should be the south. Now in the south I have 3 buttons.
Flow layout.
So you can have a flow layout. And then you put these 3 buttons in them. And here,
Flow layout.
now in the center, you see, flow layout of what? These looks like, you see they have the same color, that means these are panels. So I have inside the center here 3 panels. Each one of these panels is put inside of maybe a grid layout. So you can specify you have 1 row and 3 columns. And then if I click on red, this panel that was that color can change the color now to become red. And if I click on white, it will become white, and things like that. So I can play with the colors like this. Every time I click, it will just mention the color, put the color back. Is that okay? So just try to design this, but just as an idea, what you could do is that the frame should be border layout, because we'd like to put this into the bottom, and then here and here there's a panel. This should be like 3 panels.
Panel center, panel center 1 center, panel 1 center.
Panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, or something. So inside of this you can have like 3 different panels. Actually there's a panel inside of a panel that you can do, actually, because in here in the center you need to put a panel, and inside that panel, panels. Anyways, have a look at it. Yes?
The 3 buttons, the bottom, are they in a panel or in a frame?
No, they're in the panel. Oh, because if you put a button inside the frame in the south, it will take the whole south. So you cannot, if you put another button, it will take the whole south again. So you need a panel down there to be able to have these 3 buttons there. You could also add, if you want, a menu when you have these same colors, this red, white, and blue. So if you click on them, it will do that, but that's another story. We'll do that later.